Hi guys, it's Tesla, and today we're putting a Californian twist on an English classic. We're making steamed English pudding with fresh Californian persimmons. So the first step is to put in the flour, nutmeg, salt, and cinnamon. And so we're using half all-purpose flour and half whole wheat flour. You can use all-purpose flour, or all of it as all-purpose flour if you want to, but we like kind of that nuttier flavor. So then it's a teaspoon of nutmeg, if I don't spill it, or sorry, a teaspoon of cinnamon. A quarter teaspoon of salt, and then a half teaspoon of nutmeg. And the nutmeg we're using is fresh nutmeg, whole nutmeg that we ground on a microplane. So we'll give that a stir here. And we'll set that aside. And we'll get a large bowl. And in the large bowl, we're going to add a cup of sugar and some melted butter. It's 1 whole stick of melted butter. And then we'll stir that up again too. Make sure I got all the butter out. Give that a stir. So that it's mixed through. And then we'll add the flour mixture to the butter. That a stir. Okay, so now that that's mixed up, we can set that aside and we'll work on the persimmons here. So I've already peeled and roughly chopped 2 persimmons, and then we'll do this last one. Okay, so then we'll add to the food processor, we'll add our chopped up persimmons here. Top. And we want it to be a pulp, so we'll probably do a couple of pulses and then puree it. Alright, so that looks pretty good to me. It looks like there's not very many chunks or any at all, so that's what it looks like. And then we'll measure out a cup here and we'll add it to the batter. Looks like it'll be just the right amount. So we'll add that in. Bring this back. Get it all. I like persimmons. The baking soda that we dissolved in warm water, which looks like it could use another stir. And then we're gonna add some brandy. This is optional, you don't have to add it, but we will, so. And then a teaspoon of vanilla. You can kind of give it a stir along the way so everything gets kind of mixed in. And then we had beaten 2 eggs, so you can we like to do our mise en place beforehand and get everything ready, and then we can just dump everything in. But if you don't do that, it's two eggs beaten. And we'll give that another stir. And then we'll add in a half cup of raisins. And a half cup of crushed walnuts. and mix that all together. So for the mold, you can use either a pudding mold or a bundt pan. And because we are not in England and don't typically use pudding molds, we have a bundt pan and we'll cover it with tin foil. But first, you want to make sure that it's buttered, and so we're just using a chunk of butter and buttering the inside of the pan, making sure to get all the crevices so that it doesn't stick when we go to take it out. So that looks pretty good to me. All right, so we'll pour this in. Okay. And we'll just use the spatula to make sure we got all of the stuff out of the bowl and make sure that the cake is even on the inside, or the batter. Okay, so it looks like it's spread out pretty even across the whole mold. And so then we'll just put the aluminum foil on to make sure it's tight across the whole mold. Okay, so now we're gonna put the mold into the pot. And so we wanna have a pot that's big enough to fit the mold all the way inside. And then we're gonna use a trivet. So we'll just put that in there, and that just keeps it off the bottom of the pot. And then we'll put the mold in. And we wanna put in water. So you want to make sure the water level goes all the way up to halfway up the mold. And then we're going to use a penny, and I put the penny on the bottom there so that once it's boiling, we can hear the penny jingling, and that'll let us know that the water level is at the right temperature and the right level. So then we'll put the lid on and we'll put it on the stove for about 2.5 to 3 hours, and we'll check it about every half an hour. There's a lot of different traditional ways to serve English puddings with a lot of different sauces, but one of our favorites is a hard sauce, and so my mom will come on and show you how to do that since I'm not very skilled in that area. So let's get this on the stove.
Okay, the hard sauce is made, the mold has come out of the fridge, and now we're going to try for the unveiling. Okay. Unmolding. That's right. Now we did butter this really good because it's got all these crevices and stuff in it, but I'm also going to loosen it up with a knife. If you're making this for a Christmas pudding, you do want it to look pretty also. Okay, so you need to get a plate that's big enough, turn it over. And then before you unmold it, you need something heavier. Okay, so we're having a little bit of trouble unmolding it. You should be able to just put the top on, flip it over, give it a couple of taps, and unmold it. But it is sticking. So that means either we didn't get it greased enough inside, or we should have done it right after it came out of the oven. So we're going to have to figure out how to get this thing out. Ah, it came. Oh. Oh. All right. So it's not that bad. The thing is, we should be able to hide any of the problems that we had with it with our sauce. So I'm going to stir this sauce up a little bit. It says it's a hard sauce. As you can see, it's not very hard. It's pretty liquid. Some they vary quite a bit. This is the recipe I liked because I liked it to be pourable. And then We just want to make it pretty.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah, pretty. Looks good, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a number of different Christmas puddings. They call it Christmas pudding or steamed pudding. We made ours with persimmon, but there's one with, there's chocolate ones and mocha ones, and
The one I wanted to try was figgy pudding. That's why this.
figgy pudding is, yeah, that's a pretty classic one.
Mm-hmm. That's why this came about.
Okay, so I'm gonna sprinkle this on, and we will do a little taste test. We might even pull the man back in for a taste test. What do you think?
If he wants to.
Okay, time for the taste test. Now, Tesla has been tasting the sauce as we go, and she says it's really sweet. So the pudding itself is not that sweet, but the sauce is really sweet. So if it's too sweet for you, you may want to use that one that uses the lemon juice, and that would be less sweet. But let's give this a try. It looks nice and moist inside.
Yeah.
I think it's just fine being sweet.
Yeah, the cake evens, or the pudding evens it out.
Yeah, the inside of the pudding has got the raisins and the persimmons, and it's not that sweet, but the sauce really adds to it.
It's really sweet. But yeah,
But
balances
the cake is,
pudding.
okay, the pudding. The British call all their desserts puddings, it seems. It's a wrap.
Cheers.
Cheers.